7:45 here on this Friday morning. Every Friday morning we have Friday with the Fuzz, so I'll toss it over to the host of Friday with the Fuzz, Michael Greene.
Thank you, Derek. In studio today, Chief of Police Jeff Swoboda, and also retiring, we'll talk about that in a minute, retiring Lieutenant Leigh Rawson. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jeff, a couple things I wanted to touch on, and then really just wanted to you had a ceremony yesterday, and I wanted to spend the majority of our time this morning kind of talking about that, but two cases recently. I think we started last Thursday, and then the press release went out Friday about a reverse prostitution sting that you guys worked in conjunction with, I believe it was the Illinois State Police. I forget that part of it, but
we had a couple different agencies that helped undercover.
Yeah. Okay. Can you talk about that a little bit? And that ties into a press release from yesterday, I believe. It came out a little bit later on a prostitution sting in the area where three prostitutes. First of all, reverse prostitution. I had to read the release a couple times. I thought I understood what it was, but then I wasn't sure, and I was right. It basically is targeting the people who are seeking the prostitutes.
Exactly.
So, can you talk about those two cases a little bit?
Yeah, we. Well, first of all, people many times say, aren't there more important things to be doing than worrying about prostitution?
Is that the same thing they say when they get pulled over?
Willing adults. Very similar. Yeah. Very similar. But as we found with many things, the little things turn into big things. And prostitution will many times turn into more people hanging out, and then sometimes drinking is involved. And so there's a lot of things that get going. We don't want to start attracting people to a neighborhood for prostitution. So one of the things that our undercover officers and working with undercover officers from neighboring communities were able to, they were acting as the female, acting as the prostitute, and as people are coming forward and soliciting them. And we also get many cases where, the mom's pushing her, groceries out to the car, and we got people asking her, asking her if she's a prostitute type of thing. So just average citizens are sometimes being disturbed by this as well. It's not just two, consenting adults who's not bothering anybody, finding this out. So we did the reverse prostitution sting and made, gosh, I'm remembering the reason. 6 men were arrested, and then we followed that up with. We also then got some feedback that there are females out there today, and people coming in through Facebook and telling us, hey, they're also standing over here every day. They're bothering, they're standing out in front of my house. So we went out there, and our undercover officers, again, now we're acting as the Johns, the quote-unquote Johns, and we're talking with the females, and they made it they crossed the line by making a proposition, or accepting a proposition, and they were then arrested.
With the a couple of questions on both of these cases. On the reverse prostitution charges, when you have, as you said, undercover agents kind of playing the part of or whatever, is there certain precautions taken? I mean, because they're out there, they are not actively pursuing anything, right? Because then does there become like a fuzzy area with?
You talk about like entrapment type of thing? Yeah, it's always what comes up. Yep, I didn't know.
And I knew it.
I didn't know if you're talking safety or what.
I know it always gets brought up with any kind
Absolutely.
of, well, it's entrapment.
Right. So there are briefings beforehand, and the case law is very clear on what can be said and can't be said. And they're not out there flagging, yelling at cars that are driving by, hey, anybody, they're just out there, standing out there, and then are approached by men who are then crossing the line again and soliciting them for the favor for a certain amount of money. So yeah, there's a briefing beforehand, just reminding the officers what they can and can't say, and how far they can go as far as during the conversation, and at what point is an arrest going to be made? Has the line been crossed? Because obviously, people many times, there's the old thing, if just ask them if they're a cop, because if they lie to you, then you can't, that type of thing.
That's not true.
So there's, are you okay?
That's in Michael Greene's opinion, that's not true.
Okay. So there's a lot of things that we do in the briefings, and we just talk about it, and kind of also what's the arrest signal, so that once they cross the line, then the person out there, because.
What is that talk track a little bit? Like, what is that line in a case like this?
Because at first it many times will be, oh, what are you doing out here? So there's just small talk, and then it becomes to a point when a person then says for a certain amount of money what they're looking for. I want this for this amount of money, and
And that's
it's a
enough.
family show, so I don't want to go
Right.
too far with it. But yeah, there's a solicitation that
The
comes
act
forward.
doesn't have to be performed.
Oh,
It
absolutely
doesn't have to be
not.
that
Right.
close.
It doesn't have to be, part of the act has to be
Right.
nothing. I mean, it's making the deal beforehand is when the line is crossed.
Gotcha. And it works on the same the other way.
Yeah, and so we spend a lot of time doing, but yes, it does work the same the other way as well. But it's we spend a lot of time on many of these quality of life issues out there because, again, it just causes so many other problems. And we did it over here on the southeast side is where we were doing it this last time because it came from complaints. And so if there are other people who are listening and they see similar things that are going on, by all means they can contact us. It's the beauty of social media that some of these came out through social media, through Facebook, that people were coming forward saying, I got two standing in front of my house, or they're always in front of my house, they're always at this corner. Well, we were able to go right there and put together a quick operation, and our drug unit and our undercover officers who generally work narcotics were able to work this through very quickly.
Don't stand in front of your house when you live in the 5th most boring city in Illinois.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Oh,
This doesn't happen. I don't know. Maybe it does. I don't ever see him in front of my house. So.
At least it's a city.
Yeah, at least it's a city. Enough about that. I wanted to talk about, you had a ceremony yesterday, swearing-in ceremony, retirement ceremony, promotion ceremony. It was, man, this thing must have lasted hours.
It lasted an hour. 1 hour.
1 hour.
Yes,
Okay.
1 hour.
Straight to business.
That's right. We weren't sure. Sometimes they go very short, and sometimes they go a little bit longer. So this was a good one.
Start with, and since we have in our studio with us Lieutenant Leigh Rawson. Lee, first of all, congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you very much.
And that's going to last exactly how long?
4 days.
My question to you earlier this morning when you came in was, okay, explain to me, you're retiring, but you're then taking a new job. Why do you have to retire?
In the state of Illinois, we don't have a system where police can move around laterally from one department to the other. In order to go to a different police department, you have to resign or retire from the current one and then be hired by the next one. And there's pension issues, and there's
And you've been with Elgin how long?
20 years.
Yeah, why just throw all that away, right? Basically, if you resign, that's what you'd be doing.
My pension would still be there, but it's a different. You have to meet all the requirements for the pension, and I do meet all the requirements for the pension. So it's a retirement rather than a resignation.
Gotcha. And you're going on to the Village of Lakewood.
Correct.
I'm quite familiar with that. It's very near my area where I lived, and I was telling you earlier that drive through there quite often when I used to take my son up to soccer training up in McHenry and Crystal Lake and stuff like that. And I think you were mentioning earlier the business district. Can you tell us a little bit about Lakewood and what you know and how the whole process started? Did they seek you out, as I think happens quite often with Elgin?
Well, Lakewood is a beautiful little town up between Crystal Lake and Lake in the Hills. It's very small, population around 4,000.
Beautiful homes.
Beautiful homes.
Beautiful homes.
The business district right now, and we're planning some growth, but the business district right now consists of one corner of an intersection with a restaurant and about 5 storefronts.
One stoplight?
I'm thinking there might be 2 stoplights technically in Lakewood, but that's correct.
I don't mean to laugh. It's just I've driven through there so many times, and I think it was a part of Crystal Lake, I want to say, at one point before they kind of became their own village. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. In my mind, I'm thinking that anyway.
I don't know. If my history's correct, they incorporated in, I think, 1933.
Okay, so maybe not.
So they've been there for a long time, and they share borders and they share shores on the lake in Crystal Lake. So it's a wonderful little residential area, and with some growth plans, and turned out to be a really good experience. That the chief actually solicited my. How do I put that?
Talking about solicitation again.
Here we go.
Completely
Different kind.
Something going on in the head right now.
Getting his. I approached Lee to once I heard about the job opening.
Yeah, I wasn't looking for a job.
Okay.
I was very happy here in Elgin. Very sad to leave, but the chief brought me into his office and recommended that I at least inquire about the position, that I would be a good fit for it. And I ended up sending my resume, and lo and behold, 6 weeks later, and I'm leaving Elgin.
Do you know how many people applied for the position, or how many different grew you up against, and what was the interview process like for you?
There were over 70 applications.
Wow.
and pardon me, it's about 70, a little over 70 applications. They reduced that down to 12 interviews. That was my first interview was, me talking about myself, and then they were also telling me about the village. Then the second interview, which I was invited to, were 4 people, and then ultimately they offered me the job.
Jeff, this speaks to, we've talked about it before, and people have moved up through Elgin's ranks and on to becoming chief in a different city all the time. What does that say about Elgin to you? Just the culture that you're breeding.
Yeah, I think, as I said in my comments yesterday, everybody, obviously Lee and his family's proud, but everybody associated with the police department should be very proud as well, and the community that we hire good people, we train, we mentor, and ultimately when other people are looking for chief jobs, many times, Elgin is looked to. It's a big city, you experience everything in Elgin, from urban, rural, in some areas. It's just all different types of calls, everything working with the schools. We have gang issues here, we have narcotic issues here, so it's a city.
You've seen the gamut.
Yeah, and so Lee, being here 20 years, he might be going up against somebody who's been a police officer for 30 years, but depending on the community that they worked in, may not have seen as much. And so what we're constantly pushing within the police department is just the idea of, everybody needs to be identifying when we leave who's taking my place. It's something I talk a lot about with Deputy Chief Wolf and the commanders, that we're all, someday we're not going to be here. And so who's going to be ready? And one of the big tests, I believe, on my success or not will be if the next chief comes from within Elgin. And that's something that I shoot for all the time with the training for the commanders and the lieutenants, and making sure that we have an environment that I would consider part of my time here in Elgin a failure if we didn't have somebody ready to take the lead when I leave. And so there's only one spot for chief, so that's why when people like Lee, I think, who are very gifted and able to see the big picture on issues, when I hear about other job openings coming up, it's kind of sad because we're losing Lee. Lee runs the night shift, which is, he's in charge of the city, the entire city. So it's busy. And he doesn't have the help. They go out to police with the group that they got. They don't have detectives sitting in the station when somebody needs help, and we can have another 30, 40 officers show up. Yeah. Everybody, most people in the city are asleep. Many criminals are out there. People also going to work, coming home from work. But it's a very busy shift. It's a young shift, and so Lee's done a fantastic job for the last few years. And so when I hear about job openings, I just always wanted to challenge people. And Lee, like he said, he wasn't really looking, but I could just sense it was time for him. I think he's going to do great things up there, and I always call it, it's Lakewood, the city, but you call it the village. So the Village of Lakewood, I think they're going to they have a great chief that's going to be working up there. So I'm very proud of Lee.
Did you give us a nugget there? You kept saying when I leave.
No, but there will be a time, right? No.
Oh, okay.
No, but
I didn't know if they start looking for a replacement for our morning show.
No, but I always in the detective bureau, and we have a lot of very specialized people in the police department, and sometimes we just say, oh, well, that person does that, so and then that person's here. Well, you can't rely on that because that person, anything can happen, and so we all have to be prepared when somebody doesn't show up for work. And as I said yesterday, it's a testament to Lee and his training, and Lee's a lawyer. He went to law school before he became a police officer, and if he wasn't continuously training over the last 20 years and making himself better and doing things that he could stand up in an interview and say, I've done these things, I could say, hey, apply for this job, and nothing would have happened. So everyone needs to keep getting better every day and working harder and making the city of Elgin better. And so when Lee was able to go and have an interview, my guess is all the things he's done in Elgin made a difference versus I've been a police officer for 20 years, it's my turn to be the chief. So I think that's probably, maybe Lee could speak to that, probably some of the reasons he got the job.
The experience definitely came out in the interview process, and while the experience was a nice variety of aspects of police work, what really stood out is the community engagement philosophy of Elgin PD. So, literally for 20 years, and one of the reasons I came here was Chuck Gruber's rope program and just understanding that they were taking different directions in police work and yet still being allowed to do the traditional forms of police work. It just seemed like a great fit for me, always wanting to be a cop. Well, I'm taking that transition to Lakewood because they were very much interested in that community engagement attitude. And they know of Elgin for that reputation as well, so I think that stood out quite a bit in the interview process.
With that, with the retirement and that, you'll have another person taking over as lieutenant to replace Lee. Was that part of the ceremony yesterday?
Yep,
as
that
well?
was Colin Fleury.
Colin Fleury.
Current sergeant. Well, no,
he'll go to
lieutenant.
Evenings as well.
And he's going to go to the midnight shift, and then Ken Erickson, who's an officer, a rope officer. He's been here on the radio as well. Actually, I think Colin has as well.
Yep.
He will become a sergeant, and I think it's great. And we had a new officer, Officer Richard Free, who we just hired and is currently a police officer from up north, and I don't know exactly the city, but up that way. But I had a chance to talk with him yesterday, and I think it's the philosophy that's carrying throughout the entire police department, as Lee just hit on. I told the new officer, I said, you're a police officer, you're going to want the action, you're going to want to go out and chase down bad guys and put people in jail, and that's good to do that, but also be the person that is the first person to stop at the Boys and Girls Club and talk to some kids, go to the senior services and serve lunch, sit down and talk with them, go to neighborhood meetings, do it all. I don't want one-dimensional people, and I think that's with every one of our supervisors, and Lee as well. I mean, Lee was a detective and spent a lot of years on a lot of very large cases and have put many people in jail. But he's also been to many neighborhood meetings and talked with them and solved problems at that level. And National Night Out's coming. I want to throw that in because it's coming up for people to get their applications in. But going out on National Night Out and meeting the residents, those are the things that I think being police is great, but it's you can't be one-dimensional. You got to be able to do it all.
Another notch. Just keep it coming. It's great.
It's great, and the city should be very proud of Lee. This is a big accomplishment.
Speaking of the city and what Elgin police are doing, you've got visitors coming, right?
Yes.
To come see how you guys do it.
Hawaii.
Yes,
Hawaii's coming to Elgin.
Hawaii's coming to Elgin. They're going to check out your records management and how you guys are doing that because they're looking at doing the same.
Right. And
why go to
they
you?
are
Because other
looking at
people have the same program, right?
Yeah, they're flying over many states. First, they're flying over a lot of water.
Yep.
And then they're flying over many states and many cities, and they're coming to Elgin. And so, we're not the closest by any means.
Yeah.
We're not, this is another. We are becoming known nationally for just the things that we're doing, and it's a testament to our we have a whole technology unit and Bill Wolf and Christy and Russ, and they've got a lot of officers that are on it as well, and they deserve the credit for that. They've put together quite a records management system that it's been bumpy on its way. It's going from a paper and pen system to a computer-based system, but I've done a fantastic job. And now again, we're attracting people that are coming in to see what we're doing with that. And our technical investigations unit's having they've already had multiple cities come in and start looking at all the different things we're doing with data and video cameras and what our future is. So it's just the police department's just running all cylinders right now. It's going very well.
That's excellent. You guys said you had a couple things that you wanted to talk about coming up.
The big one was National Night Out on Tuesday, August 5th. Okay. So please sign up. It's the one if there's block parties, and if your city's your block's not having a party, you can start one, and otherwise there's going to be a very large one down at Festival Park.
And they can ask for people to, dignitaries, so to speak, to come visit, right?
Because then we'll stop by, right? Yeah. The police, fire.
Can they ask for
mayor,
specific people?
They try, yeah. I mean, they can, but if everybody's asking for Leigh Rawson, then we're not going to be able to accommodate that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, he's unavailable.
He's unavailable at this time. So
happy to make a trip down.
There you go.
So also this weekend, a couple concerts going on down in Festival Park. I know there's Sunday. There's Brett Michaels is coming, and I think lead singer Cinderella and Dee Snider. So that'll be popular. I'm sure it'll be a very active downtown on Sunday as well.
All right.
I think there's something Friday as well. So a lot of things going on. Refer to our City of Elgin.
CityofElgin.org.
That's right. Everything's on there.
It's all there.
Yes.
Guys, thank you very much. Lee, congratulations.
Thank you.
On your 4-day retirement and on your new job. Start what, next week then? Or the week after?
Getting sworn in Tuesday night and start Wednesday.
Wow.
And if anybody who missed the ceremony, it's going to be up on our Facebook page here probably later today. So we videotaped it so we could put it out because there's a lot of friends and family who couldn't make the ceremony, being that it was during the week. So people will be able to watch it. So if you're not a fan on Facebook, make sure you go on the Elgin Police Department.
Make sure you like it. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Sam 1410, WRMN.
Elgin.